I want to thank everyone that has made it, especially staff. I know y'all have worked a full day and then having to be here. I appreciate that and the time that y'all put in to get this presentation ready for me. So I really appreciate that. And for everyone, all the guests, thank you for coming. So those that do not know me, my name is Mike Del Bosque. I'm raised here in Grand Prairie. Been here my whole life. My parents came up from the Rio Grande Valley back in the 60s to work. My father worked at LTV back then. That was a federal contract for the fighter planes. They were making that transition from propeller to jet engine. So he worked there, and we grew up on the east side of Grand Prairie by Mountain Creek. So I'm very proud to represent the district that I grew up in. Spending a lot of time out there as a kid, going through the whole public system here, whether it was at Bonham Elementary, then went to Immaculate Conception to a private school, tried that out. Wasn't a good fit for me, so I came back to public school and went to Truman and graduated at South in 1991. Always been involved in some form or fashion. At the age of 12, I got involved with my first campaign, and that was Miss Ruthie Jackson, named after this building here. That was my first campaign that my parents got me involved in, and I was the kid that jumped out of the back of the truck and put up a yard sign, and they told me to go over here. So each street we're running up and down. So ever since then, I've been involved in some form or fashion. As I got older and became a father, and my kids were busy in either sports or academics, I couldn't get involved, but was able to help behind the scenes, whether it was donating to Lifeline or any charity to help out. So I've always been involved. And when my kids got old enough and started graduating in 2013, and that's when I jumped in and was able to come in 2017. And it's been an adventure since then. You know, it's nothing, it's been smooth. It's nothing easy, but it's something that a challenge that I've always wanted to take and have enjoyed it. The good, bad, and the ugly, and that's what tonight's all about. Is just for me is giving back. Grand Prairie's always been good to me. I've never had any ill feelings or anything of that besides the police department. But Chief and I have had our discussions. It's funny because when I came on in 2017 as a council member, you visited each department. And so when I went up to the police department, the chief at that time, Chief Dye, he's like, well, let me take you around here and hey, I'll take you to the jail. And I grabbed his arm. I said, Chief, I've been in there a couple of times. You don't need to. I've been at the old one. I've been here at the new one. No big deal. And that's good because for me, I look at it as being here in Grand Prairie, being raised in Grand Prairie, me being a part of Grand Prairie and the growth. I'm just an average guy, where Coles is now, the old building, that used to be a horse pasture. We used to ride horses from there all the way back into the 80s when Joe Pool was being dug out. We used to go hunting back there. Back when 360 on the other side of I-20, on the other side of 360, that was turned into a dirt road. Home Depot wasn't there. For us, that was our playing ground. When I'd get with my friends and we go horseback riding and go camping out there, that was country to us. So being raised here and seeing all this, when Home Depot came and then you saw the jet crash back there in the neighborhood, those are all memories that I have. So when I'm vested in here and what I do is because I've seen where Grand Prairie was at one time, what it is now, and so excited to where it's going in the future. And I want to be part of that. But a lot for me is what my parents taught me is at what point do you give back? Or here I am. It's me investing since 2017 of what I can do to give back and to help those also that need the help. Our population has grown so much that we're a population of 200,000. If you look at us 50 years ago, the numbers weren't there. Me as a minority, the Browns weren't there, the Blacks weren't there, but now they are. But we need to become of that as a community. We need to become more representative of who we are and what we are. And so with that, I advocate that also. I advocate to educate and advocate. Educate those that what's going on in the city, but advocate of who we are and what we are and how do we set up ourselves against other cities. And so when I look at city council and we're looking at projects, me being a business owner here in Grand Prairie, I look at what we're doing as a business, because if we don't, everyone's going to keep growing except for us. And so we have to be competitive. We have to look at y'all's tax dollars, which is mine too. How do we allocate those? And are we efficient with those funds? Are we getting the most bang for our buck? How are we being competitive when you're looking at Arlington and Las Colinas and Irving and what's going on? So tonight, it's not about us and it's not about what's happening in our departments. This is about y'all. And even those that are on Facebook, it's about y'all. I want us to spend the next hour or so to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and what can we do as a city to make things better for y'all. And so with that being said, we're going to do a little slideshow. And we're going to see here. Which one do I use here? See, I think we're going to start here. And this is something that I'm very proud of. And I think we're going to start with the video. Yeah. So this is going to go fairly fast.
On the eastern border of the city. More than $2 million. Grand Prairie is celebrating a major makeover at New Familia Park, a sprawling green space that hugs the shoreline of Mountain Creek Lake on the eastern border of the city. More than $2 million worth of improvements have been made to the park, including a new playground, new concrete walking trails, new benches and picnic tables, as well as new landscaping. The upgrades are the result of work that started several years ago when the city of Dallas gave control of the park to Grand Prairie.
We've been here 45 years. We're from South Texas. And this is where we used to come for Easter, birthdays, any kind of celebrations.
I'm very excited to bring my daughter here and to just have great family memories here. 2, 1. All right.
At a ribbon cutting Monday, officials talked about the importance of the park to the neighborhood.
Councilmember Del Bosque will tell you, our citizens used to play in this park, but it was in Dallas. And he worked diligently to get it transferred over into the city of Grand Prairie. And now we're able to spend some funds here and make it the park that we want it to be.
We devoted a ton of resources to getting the bad element out of the park, particularly on the far end, almost immediately when we took control of the park. And now, take a look. It's quite beautiful. So really, really proud of that. We're going to ensure that your babies stay safe while they're out here enjoying the park. This park was a vital part of me growing up with my friends. So when I talk about growing up in this neighborhood, very deeply threaded into the neighborhood and basically became who I am now. Also with my parents of what they instilled in me of giving back.
The project is the first phase of renovations at Mi Familia and was financed with funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
How to open your car door while submerged underwater. A fatal
Thank you. So that's Mi Familia Park. It was called Mountain Creek Park. So in 2017, there was 3 things that my campaign stood on. One of them was economic development for the district, which we're achieving that even as today. The second was for this park. This park was Dallas. It's always been Dallas. We maintained it, but we couldn't really control it as far as first response. So it took me 2.5 years to get that annexed over from Dallas. They didn't want to give it up, but then the council member at that time, Councilman Casey Thomas, he was like, we really don't do anything, but yeah, let's just, and it took, city of Dallas, it took 2.5 years to get it, but we got it. And as Chief said, as you saw in the video, we took care of, the first thing that we took care of was the prostitution and drugs that were on the north side. And it's unfortunate because there's so many neighbors out there that they just stopped going because of that. And so Chief was so gracious that we put an eye in the sky. I call it an eye in the sky to start monitoring the speed, people speeding, racing there on the streets and all that. And we were able to get that under control. And, Steve Plummer, he's been part of the team. We started planning this out. And at that time, Dwayne was a director. Dwayne Shaw was the director of parks. And so Ray, he came in, transitioned over, and here we are now. Now we're getting ready to do phase 2, which will be a splash pad. And I'll get into the parks here. This is how it looked when we first started planning this out. Been there forever, since day one. This is what we're planning now, and you can see the landscape of how much. It's 110, 120 acres that we're looking at, but looking at phase 1, we said, how do we do this? We got so much green area. How much do we keep a lot of it? But then again, put things out there that people have to go out. Grand Prairie District 3, it's the second oldest district in Grand Prairie, with an average income of 33,000. So a lot of these families, they're either young starting off or older, they've been there, and a lot of them are under a fixed income. So they really can't afford to go out to like Epic and do all that, especially the young kids. This is how it looks now, the front entry. It's a part of the neighborhood, and when I went with the colors, that's part of our culture. Vibrant colors, it's who we are. If you go to Cancun, you go anywhere like that, you see these colors. If you go to Honduras, any of them, El Salvador, these are the colors that you see. And so I picked that because it represents of who we are. And so now that's how it looks now, and that's an aerial view. And a lot of this is bring in a lot of the community. We had times just on the other side of this wall where the neighbors would come out and say, I'd like this. So it just wasn't my idea, wasn't their idea, it was y'all's idea. And so this is part of phase one. We put in new paths, new tables. We are working to put in some recyclable bins. That's a big part of giving back to the nature, all the plastics. So this is it. And Claudia, is there any way we can zoom this in? If not, no big deal. I'll get the laser. So you look at this picture here. Let me take this up. You look at this one, and, I don't know if anybody knows the history of the naval base. Back in the day, our naval base, unfortunately, the Navy dumped a lot of fuel in the water. And over the years, there's a lot of sediment, and the water's tainted. Now, you can go fishing out there, and you can catch a 5-7 pound bass. It may have 3 eyes. The back may be crooked, but you can catch it, And so we're talking about ideas like that. What can we do to bring it back? These are just concept ideas, but right here is phase one that we just spoke about, right in here. Now, phase two is going to be in this area up here. And we're talking about a splash pad, another pavilion, a memorial wall of all the Hispanic, Latino people that got us to where we're at now. There's been some in the Hispanic, in our community, you have like Alma Perez. She passed away maybe 4 years ago, but she was very adamant on the educational side. People like her husband, Gloria Carrillo, who's our former school board president. Her and her husband, along with my parents, they started, John is a member of it now, our mayor pro temp. He's a member of it now, ASE. And so these groups of people that gave a lot of character to me, how you doing, Ms. Vargas? Of what I'm doing now, they're the ones that are kind of the ones that led this charge. And so in this area here, we're planning a splash pad because a lot of the people there, they can't afford to go to Epic. They can't afford that fee. So for me is what kind of resources can we bring in here? A multi-purpose field, soccer, pickleball, basketball, things that we can use differently in different areas. And then phase three is going to be, we're looking at up here. And what I envision is a rec center with a huge patio around here that overlooks the water. And so again, is bringing those resources to the neighborhood because a lot of people can't afford to go out. So let's bring them in. Now, we've been fortunate to work with our state rep, Jessica Gonzalez, that's been allocated funds. And we're going to be meeting with her again to allocate funds going into 25. And so it's a combination of our city funds that we can allocate and plus our state funds. And so it's a win-win because the whole thing is who's going to benefit? It's all of us in the neighborhood. Excuse me? Correct. Yes. So in the summer, we have these programs here. And if you look at what are the locations, Charlie Taylor, Dalworth, the Epic, and Tony Shotwell. Nothing close to us. And this is where, going back, of putting a rec center up here, now we're creating that walkability. That we're not having to ask for a ride or trying to figure out how do I get there. Or all these kids missing out on these summer programs. Now we're creating that walkability, or they can ride their bikes. So that is the whole thought process is what can we do to bring to in-source as much as we can. That being said, this goes up to our next project, and this has been a project that we've been working on. Rashad, what are we talking about? 4 or 5 years now? Just about. And so this is kind of like the east meets the west. This is going to start on the east side, where there in district, Mountain Creek, the bridge, Pioneer Parkway, and going all the way west to Asian Times Square. And so here's the park here, and it's going to go Pioneer all the way to Asian Times Square. And what this is this is going to be a project that's going to create what I just talked about, that walkability, bringing families out, doing things as far as businesses, being able to get the community, instead of having to drive so much, is to walk to places, grocery stores, restaurants, things of that. We just talked about Mi Familia Park, how it's going to be tied into that. If you look at Pioneer, is right here. There's a bridge that goes over the lake. So the international corridor is going to join a path that leads all the way up into the park. And this is going to bring a lot for the families, the whole neighborhood, to enjoy as far as creating that. Now, this is the picture now on Pioneer and Beltline. There is I think it's Walgreens, gas station, another gas station. And so that's the aerial view. This is what the concept we're looking at. Bringing more plants out, using these mediums, bringing life back into it. Concepts of this, of past where the family can take. These are some of the colors that we're looking at. I like these more because of kind of what we're doing down there at the park. But the whole thing is at night, having these signages here, just bringing life. If you look at Pioneer now, between Beltline and Corn Valley and then Carrier, all you see is just trees. So how do we spash that up? How do we make it look nice? And these are, like I said, these are conceptual plans, but this is, again, going into it that I will have on our town hall meetings. I'll be getting the community out and getting ideas from everyone. These are walk paths that we're going to be creating. Again, that whole walkability, walking by yourself, going to the grocery store, bike rides. If anyone's been on Carrier where it dead ends to Camp Wisdom, this is a perfect example. They have this on the south end, the intersection, going from 1382 all the way to Robinson Road. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to, those that are driving, but those that want to ride their bike and walk, there's going to be an area for them too. And then on 161 on Pioneer, it's to spice it up. This is down in Victory Plaza, but this is something that we can do here. And these columns, we can wrap these columns because it's these culture. The international corridors are cultures, Hispanic, Black, Asians, American, it's all the cultures. So it's a good idea, like if we could wrap these in different cultures to represent who we are in Grand Prairie, but also add color, add life. I know that I spoke to Chief last year, 2 years ago almost, when we lost our last officer. And so the next exit up north of that is actually changing that light, the yellow, to a blue to honor all of our falling first responders back in the blue. And I think it's a pretty cool idea, again, of who we are in Grand Prairie. So we're working. I know our former city manager, he left it on the table, but hopefully we'll be able to pick it up with our new city manager here. So again, these are just ideas that we're sharing, that we will be bringing this up to the public to dig really into it. So speaking of that, we're going to jump into economic development. And these are just things happening in and around Grand Prairie. And so when we look at this, you see, my little flasher here, everything that's going on happening. You know, everybody knows of IKEA. Right now, everybody sees on 161, you know, you see the Andretti's, indoor racing. We got, you know, Bass Pro Shop coming. You see all the shopping that we have. And a lot of it is, we're very fortunate in an indirect way because our past council has been somewhat conservative. When I say past, 20, 30 years ago, that we have a lot of green space now. And now that everybody's building out, we kind of have an upper edge of what we want to come into Grand Prairie. You know, if you look at everything that we're going on the corridor, but the 161 corridor, that's just one thing. Down here on the south end, my pointer's not working. But if you look in our south end, 287, where 360 dead ends, we have thousands and thousands of acres that we're working on a 20-year plan on that. It's called Southgate. It's a city within a city that when it's developed, it's going to populate anywhere from 40 to 50,000 people in Grand Prairie. That's a quarter of our population right now. And if you look at our north side, I-30 and Beltline, our entertainment district, we're looking at that. Of what's the vision there? We just changed our cricket stadium. We just opened that last year. It used to be the old Air Hogs. And another cultural thing. It's another cultural opportunity, but that's a high-end game. If anybody knows cricket, it's the second richest sport in the world, right behind soccer. And so right now it's the American League, but when we go international, we're going to have to entertain Dubai, Saudi, Indy, Australia that have money. And how do we prepare for that? Well, it's fortunate that Mayor Pro Temp and I are on economic development or in community development that we're going to have these conversations. When I came on in 2017, one of the first things that the city manager, Tom Hart, at the time, he goes, Mike, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to get ready for gambling. And I want to get ready for medical marijuana. And Mayor Jen said, that ain't never going to happen. But we're almost there. We're just a couple of years away of it really, really happening. If you look at what's happening in North Texas, if anybody's watching the news, you know that Sands Hotel out of Vegas bought the Mavericks. They've got 80+ lobbyists down in Austin that are lobbying. The reason why the Sands family bought the Mavericks, because now they're on the gaming board for the state of Texas. So that was their key to get in to start legalizing gambling. You got Cornish that owns Texas Live. He has casinos in Baltimore. And you look at John Roski, he owns the Stockyards. He's got 3 casinos in California. Everybody here in North Texas is getting ready. And these are all billionaires. They're not multimillionaires. These are billionaires. And this is my own opinion. And I'm a big planner. And I can see this coming. And the people that I know and had conversations, this is in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be a very wealthy, not a rich, but a very wealthy city, Grand Prairie. But what do we do with those tax dollars that we generate? How do we allocate those? I know that for our first responders, we're not going to have a budget. I'd love to see these guys driving in Denali's and making sure that our first responders have everything they have to need to save lives. But if in our department, with our waste, with our water, all of this, what are we going to do with all this money? How do we give it back? Say that again? Yes, and I will once we get into it, once we get into our Q&A. And so that being said is I'm always wanting to plan. That's what I love about being on community development is planning. What do we have? What are we going to do with it? And so those are some things that we're looking at and that we're really getting excited on. And so as you look at this, we're going to keep going here. You look at what our economic development is. Attract, incentivize, and retain as much as we can. Then we go into planning, and then we go into building. And so as we're doing that, Rashad is doing a knockout job, and I'll introduce him here in a bit. It's having those open lines of communication with staff. As us as council members are out meeting and shaking hands and kissing babies, we don't know all the answers, but this is our backbone here. These are the people here that keep us educated as we get out there and we advocate. They educate us, we go out and advocate, and that's our partnership. And so when we're looking at this, we compare ourselves with what's happening around us. You look at up here, you got Frisco, you got Allen, you got Cabela's, you got Premium Outlets Frisco, you got Shields, Top Golf, there's an IKEA up there. You look at Fort Worth, there's another Cabela's, and Tanger Outlets. But here in Grand Prairie, you've got all that plus more. And so for the longest time, a lot of people said, man, Frisco's getting so much, McKinney's getting so much, Plano's getting so much. Well, we're just getting just as much, if not more. You know, and one thing that Chief is going to, hopefully he touches on here in a bit is who are we in Grand Prairie as far as when it comes to crime and safety? And he's got some really good news to share. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but he's going to have some really good stuff to share. Chief Fight, we're just going to try to make sure he doesn't fall down and hurt himself anymore. We're going to figure that out. Yeah. But this is who we are. This is how our landscape is. This is District 3. This is my district here, what I represent, and it's growing. Our population is growing. And so within the next 2 years, with our population, I'm pretty sure as a council, we're going to have to come back and move the lines. And all the lines are going to be moving south because our population is growth is south. And so as the whole city grows, then comes down here, if I can get my laser, down here, 287. This is all ETJ, that we have so much development that are being planned out, and this is where the growth is. Now, one of the other things that we're talking about that I've always been brought to me is because we're the second oldest district in Grand Prairie is housing. You know, right now, the average house, they say it's 250, 300,000. A lot of people can't afford that. A lot of young professionals can't afford that. A lot of the older people that are starting to retire can't afford that. And so what we've, as a council, been working on is affordable housing, attainable housing. And so we have identified spots within Grand Prairie that we can bring that product in and make it affordable for that couple that's just starting off to be a family, or for that older couple that's starting to downsize because they don't need all this space. And so that's something that throughout Grand Prairie that is going to be a vital product to fit the need that we've had here for many, many of years. So we'll go through this. Now, when we talk about economic development, this is a project that we just approved that's going to be going on Pioneer, just east of Beltline between the, what is it, a Burger King and a Waffle House. There's a piece of land there that Harbor Freight is coming in. We approved that last month or 2 months ago. They should be breaking dirt here soon. But not only is this going to bring in jobs, but to have some development here in this district that is a very blue-collar district. We have a lot of labor people. So, you know, those that have to go to Home Depot or even have to go to Lowe's somewhere else, this is going to fit their need, which is a great project. I'm glad that it decided to come to District 3. We talked about housing. These are some of the things that are happening as far as what we're planning out on Beltline and Marshall. We have some hybrid homes instead of, you know, the whole thorn of apartments. We did a project where we crossed between an apartment and a townhome. And instead of having them stacked like a chicken coop, we spread them all on the ground on 32 acres. And so it brings a little bit more privacy for the neighbors, that people don't have to look in other people's backyard, but it's another affordable product. And that's it right there. On the corner of Beltline and Marshall is going to have a hard corner there where it's going to be shopping. This is going to be a big pool area, and these are all going to be hybrid homes instead of stacked up apartments. And so that's just kind of an example there. Talking about the international corridor, which we just touched base on. It's a project we've been working on with the city of Arlington, with both of our county commissioners. And that right there is going to lead into, did we miss economic development? We already got through that, right? So that's pretty much it. Now we're going to get into the Q&A part, and this is going to be about y'all. And that being said, I want to introduce our directors, our chiefs here, starting with our Chief Fight, Chief Daniel Cesney, Ray Serta, who's over Parks, Noreen Housewright, who's over our Director of Engineering and Utilities, Dr. Patricia Redfern, who's our solid waste, the landfill, things of that, Mr. Rashad Jackson, who's over our planning and economic development, Carl Derives, is he here? Here, Cheryl, she's there, transportation and mobility, Sydney Mendez, who's over our public health and environmental, and then Tao Vo, who is our audit and budget, the numbers guy. And then we have our city secretary, Mona Lisa, and our city secretary, Claudia. She's in the back helping me out. She's over our communications and marketing. So this is the backbone of our city. These are the people that make it go round and round every day. Like I said, us as council members, we all have full-time jobs, but this is them. This is who we are. So when you talk about Grand Prairie, it's not so much us as council member, it's these men and women here that are duking it out in the trenches every day, finding out what is the best that Grand Prairie can offer. Along with that, we have our city manager, if you'd like to stand up there, Mr. Bill Hills. Another, so he's been there, what, now going on, 36 years. And so he knows his way around. I thought it was more than that. I thought it was like 38, 40 years. Yeah. So that being said, now we're going to leave this up to questions. And we have these mics over just here. This is the only one, just this one here. So does anybody have a question? Anything y'all want to discuss? Anything? Would you like to come over here? And, okay. Oh yeah, that's right. We're on Facebook.
You're talking about all this new development and how you're going to make everything beautiful, but what about the old stuff that's already here? Uh, the code enforcement that doesn't take care of fences down, lawns not mowed, that type of thing in the old part of your district. What, and plus do you make the companies that own property like at where Dollar Tree is and El Rancho, do they keep, who makes them responsible for keeping up that type of thing to make us look like a nice looking city?
Yeah, so that's a perfect example. That property owner, we have been talking to him and we've ticketed him and we've given citations as a warning, but we've actually fined him. And so for the longest time, that particular property on the back end had a huge problem with the trees and all the junk that he would put back there. And so that is where code enforcement that's under PD, and if Chief, if you'd like to come up and speak about that, but yes, we do go out there, but we're amicable of trying to get it done until we have to, but Chief can definitely go into that.
Thank you, sir. I also have Assistant Director Ryan Simpson here, who commands code enforcement, works on my team. So I hear you loud and clear, ma'am. Let me tell you something that we're doing and have done to streamline our code enforcement process. So when code enforcement came under the police department, for an officer to come out and take enforcement action on tall grass or a dilapidated fence, I think were two of the examples you highlighted. It was a very arduous process. From stem to stern, you're talking about 2 hours, and then you got to follow up. So we wanted to revamp that, take the bureaucracy out of it, and now officers are able to go out and bang out that problem in about 10 minutes. So they're very responsive. If you have an issue, first of all, you can call me directly. My direct number is 972-237-8713, or you can call our code enforcement. We'll send somebody out right away and take care of it. Chad McGowan is the manager over code enforcement. He takes code seriously. We're just a very large city, and it's bursting at the seams. So help us help you. We'll get out there and take care of it right away. I hope that answered your question. We've got work to do.
That's what I'm saying. We, in my neighborhood, and I live off of the Country Club in 8th Street there by South Grand Prairie, and that is a school that other schools come to visit, and you see down property, fences down, things to that nature, and we want our community to look nice for these people that are coming in from these others, so that we don't get a bad name from them coming.
Yes, ma'am. Ryan took a note of that neighborhood you brought up, and we'll get the team out there and take another look.
If you'd like to give your name and number to him, Ryan, would you like to stand up, please? If you'd like to give your name and number to him, and then we can follow up with you.
I have another question. I love the
Yes.
new Mi Familia Park. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I noticed that you're doing the kayaking type thing that you have. So you said that it's three-eyed bass. What are you doing for the lake to make people, you don't want them swimming in there because it is not a good lake to swim in.
Unfortunately, we can't do anything because there's so much damage and there's so much sediment of waste in there that if we disturbed it, we'd be killing everything in there. And so we have signs all over, catch and release along the banks, but as far as us trying to do something, matter of fact, I was talking to Mr. Plummer and Ms. Serta before this, that when we were just talking about that 2 years ago, I was out there with Texas Parks and Wildlife. They did soil samples. They went out there, caught fish. They spent 3 days of doing all that throughout that whole lake. They went down into the creeks, did everything. And they came back and we visited for a little over an hour and they showed this report that the dirt and mud is so contaminated that if someone was just to walk in there, not only the hazard to themselves, but to all of the life in that, not only the fish, but frogs, everything that's in there. The green space, all of that would be damaged. The fish and they caught different varieties of fish, catfish, bass, large, sand bass. And they showed this report of how many ounces you could eat. And nothing got past 4 ounces. And that's how bad it is. And they showed pictures of fish with spines crooked, all kinds of fish. You know, I was just telling that back in the day when we would go there as kids, go fishing, we'd come, you know, we'd get home and we'd fillet them, put them in the deep fryer. And the first one we did, it blew up. And we're like, what the heck? It's kind of like, and so we put another one in, and so it kept on blowing up because it was so, the meat was so contaminated, we just had to throw everything away. So unfortunately, because of what's happened on the military base, nothing we can do about it. Even now, the city of Dallas, that 700 acres Hensley Field, it's a huge development program, and it's a huge project there, but they got a lot of contamination, not only in the water, but in the dirt, because they buried a lot of it also. So
Just one more question.
yes,
I
ma'am.
saw that beautiful plan on Beltline and Marshall that you're doing. What did you say when that was going to
Rashad?
start?
Ma'am, it's not a definite timeline right now. I know the project, the property owner has been working with our engineering team and gone back and forth on some civil matters for the plan itself, but I couldn't give you a definitive construction start. But he has been working. I think his finances also is becoming an issue because of the delay. But just keep an eye out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan, could you get her name and number, please? Anybody?
Hi, Debbie Johnston. I'm just kind of hearing this about that lake. So did we annex water that is contaminated? Who owns the water?
The city of Dallas. That's still their lake, our park, but their lake. There's a
That-
big water plant, power
Right,
plant
right, the
back
power
there,
plant.
but
Okay,
nothing
and they
comes out
won't
of it.
clean it up?
They can't. There's nothing they can do with it. There's nothing, there's not enough money to even try to, but the state and the government's already said, do not touch it.
Okay, well, I would tap the brakes on encouraging water, uh, adventure out there on
Right.
something that's so contaminated.
Well, so the water, it's everything underneath the water. If you go in their step, it'll contaminate the water because everything's settled down.
Mhm. Yeah.
The water up top is okay. It's just everything at the bottom.
just
So if you
swim on
step in
top
there,
and don't
all that
touch the
mud
bottom.
mixes in with the water.
No.
But
You know what I'm saying to you?
Right, no, you're right. Either way, it's a red flag.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge red
But like I
flag.
said, these are all just concepts that we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing's etched in stone.
Sure,
Yeah.
I get that, but we're encouraging kayaking, which I would love the kayaking and stuff like that out there, but
Yeah.
not in
So,
contaminated water. And I've grown up in Grand Prairie my whole life, and I've always heard about the three-eyed fish is also. I
yeah,
would never fish that lake. I would never step foot in that lake. But we didn't annex the lake, we did annex contaminated property though.
just, no.
The land is
contaminated
fine?
is the base, the naval base.
Okay, but our land that we
Yeah.
annexed is fine.
Yeah, that's a different, I mean, there's water separating.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, Steve, what was it when we started planning this out? Was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago that we started planning this out. And so when we had a town hall meeting, on the other side of this wall, that was one of the things that residents wanted to see. So we said, all right, we'll draw something up. But if you'd like to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so the master plan process started really soon after you got elected. And then we went through the first phase of construction and we just finished that, as everybody knows. But that is just a master plan. So every time we go back and improve or do the next phase, we'll come back to the neighborhoods and really make sure that's what the neighborhood wants to see as that next development.
So these are all just conceptual. Yep. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm David. Very happy to see what you've pushed for and what you've done with Mi Familia Park. Really like your attitude toward more walkability, riding, making it easier to ride bikes. I love the concept of extending a trail east to west. Love all that. Been trying to ride my bike more in the city. I've actually ridden my bike from where I'm at, which is close to not far from here, close to SGP,
Uh-huh.
all the way to Mi Familia Park and back. It was a little dangerous. It was a bit sketchy, I won't lie. As far as the excuse me, not Southgate, as far as the Pioneer Beltline intersection, just curious if y'all had considered, since you're wanting to redesign that intersection, if you had considered modern roundabouts. Personally, I'm a big fan of them. It eases traffic flow. It can help slow cars down without causing too much traffic congestion, and ends up being less emissions in the area
Right.
on that intersection,
Who wants that?
which
Sheriff,
is
you wanna
good for
answer
the
that?
city.
Which one of y'all want to be the lucky? Okay.
I'll leave it. We haven't considered that. I'll leave that, understanding that, TxDOT owns the right of way of Pioneer.
Okay,
I don't think they would approve a roundabout at that location just because it's really an auto-oriented corridor. It was
Right.
intended to just move traffic. We're trying to soften that with the landscaping and the trails, but
Uh-huh.
Carol can speak more to the logic behind the roundabout.
Okay.
And sometimes the roundabouts will take a lot more right of way as well, but sorry, ma'am. The right of way for Pioneer and that portion of Beltline is also state right of way. So it's a state intersection, but
Okay.
we do have some roundabouts on the horizon, actually, part of our
Happy to hear.
downtown corridor. And we've got a big one out east that's about to bid out. So where Jefferson and Main come together on the east side of the city, headed towards Dallas, we're about to
In that
build a really
industrial
big roundabout that will
district.
take the truck traffic and push them to Jefferson and not through downtown.
Okay.
That's a
That's great.
phase of the downtown project. So
Okay.
it's not that we're against those. We're headed that direction.
Great
But
to
this
hear.
location is not looked at for that particular reason.
May not be ideal.
Mhm.
Okay.
May not be.
Okay. And then additionally, again, with the walkability, rideability, and I appreciate that you're a man of planning, that you're looking ahead, you're thinking about economic development. There are plans for bringing public transit to Grand Prairie. Clearly, with the population growth, the amount of traffic you see in Grand Prairie, the way it affects, air quality amongst other things. There are plans there are plans out there to say connect Dallas through Grand Prairie to Arlington. I think around the main Jefferson area, and then also along 30. I know it's been in the news lately, high-speed rail that could potentially, that the plan they have would go through north end of Grand Prairie to 30. I'm curious your views on bringing transit, especially rail, which I think we need. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So who wants to talk about VIA? You want to talk about VIA and the bullet? Yeah, come on. Yeah, yeah. So we have VIA. I don't know if you heard of VIA. It's our transportation here in Grand Prairie.
I've used it
You
once.
see
Yeah.
them, oh, you used it. And then
Mhm.
we have the bullet that's a future project.
We have Grand Connection as well, which is for people that are over a certain age or have health issues.
Sure.
And we take those folks to doctor's appointments, things that they need. And then we also have VIA, which is considered micro transit, where anybody can ride for just a
Mhm.
couple of dollars. But what you're also referring to is what they're calling the bullet train. It's kind of being handled at COG, which is the Council of Governments. We're on the North Central Texas Council of Governments as our MPO, the
Yeah.
planning organization.
Yeah, I was at the
And-
meeting last week.
Yeah, right. Okay, see, that's why you know about this.
Yeah.
So in Fort Worth, they're talking about it being underground. We're looking at where it's going to surface as it
Mhm.
goes towards Dallas. We're still in the process of figuring those locations out,
Mhm.
whether they're going to have any stops in between and what have you.
and where it's going to end up in Dallas. There's been a lot of discussion at the regional transportation councils with Dallas's council as well.
Okay.
So it's not entirely nailed down, I would say, just yet, and the different cities are discussing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Because what I don't want to see is them avoid Grand Prairie because we've never accept DART is for them to just continue to use Irving. And then we miss out on the bullet stop.
And there's
then
a lot of
second,
factors that factor into that, of
I-
whether we can or
I
cannot.
understand there's, the stakeholder issues and other things, but I would also like to see expansion of DART into Grand Prairie, finally connecting us to Dallas and to Arlington. If my car breaks down, right, especially this district, you say your district, common income, in your neighborhood, 32K a year, if my car breaks down, I can't make, I work in Dallas. I can't hop on the train and make it to work. I can't hop on the bus and make it to work. That's not an option. I want to see that an option in the future, and as for us, and then for, young people as people even, younger than me, as they hit 18, 20, having those options, getting connected to where the jobs are, throughout the Metroplex.
Yeah. So if you look at what we have now,
Uh-huh.
the VIA,
Uh-huh.
it can take you up to Trinity, which you can connect to the DART there to take it into Dallas Fort
Uh-huh.
Worth. And then future, well, again, Hensley Field, that's a conversation there with that project that DART may be coming up to Hensley Field, which our VIA can connect
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So those are in the plans there. So when you're talking about future,
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at now.
Mhm.
But present, you can get VIA up to Trinity and then connect there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what are you open to at least open to the idea of bringing DART into Grand Prairie?
We're open to it, but
Okay.
there's a lot of pros and cons to that also.
Okay.
And that's where VIA came through.
Yeah. I
Because
would
one
argue
is,
there are more
Yeah.
pros, but I'm sorry,
yeah,
continue.
so when you're talking about DART, you're having to talk about, people's land. Who are they eminent domain?
Sure.
How's that
I
going to affect them?
understand. Mhm.
And so now you're putting people out of their property and their houses.
Mhm.
That's another thing. But the money that we made, that we get off of that, not using it, we allocated to improve other projects in the city.
Sure.
Do we need it? We don't, none of our mid cities, where you look at, Arlington, they have their own transportation,
Okay.
but it's something that we can all, tie up in the middle, all of our mid cities to connect to them.
Mhm.
Right now, a lot of it is, if you look at DART,
Mhm.
is it the most safest?
Mhm.
Especially for our more of our older population.
Mhm.
And then our younger population, there's a lot of risks there too. So you got a lot of pros and cons,
Mhm.
but for the happy medium now, we have our VIA that has grown so much, has been so successful
Sure.
that we can just see the growth of it. If you, where our main library is, if you go there at night on the weekends,
Mhm.
I think, Walter, didn't we start with like 18 vans? And then what, how many are we up to now? We went from 18 to 24. I thought we were more in the 30s. Yeah. Yeah. So we're getting our vans again, but now we're getting them accessible for wheelchairs, things of that nature.
Mhm.
But no, that's
But-
been a conversation for many years.
Yes.
But what are the pros and cons
Yes.
to do that?
But you're also talking, okay, let's have, big game cricket, big game, casinos coming in at Grand Prairie in the near future, whether that's 10 to 30-year span, depending on how things go. And then you're talking about maybe big sports coming into Grand Prairie, that sort of thing. If you don't have rail, if you don't have that stronger infrastructure, you won't be able to handle it.
True. That you're 100% right. The problem for us now is, so you got this guy over here in Arlington, Jerry Jones, right?
Sure.
And he's a bigwig and he's tied into politics.
Sure.
And so with his political connections, do we try to fight to stop in Grand Prairie? What do we have compared to Arlington right now? You look at their entertainment,
Mhm.
I-30, and look at our entertainment, I-30.
Okay.
Obviously, they're going to get the stop, but there's growth.
Yeah.
Why can't we have two stops? Right now, we can't justify that,
Mhm.
but rail is coming, whether it's the bullet, where it's coming, it's coming. Those are going to be future conversations that
Okay.
I know that I'm not going to be on the council, That's going to be down the road.
When's your
Okay?
term up?
Mine?
Mhm.
We don't have term limits,
Oh, okay.
but
N-
I'm not I'm not a lifer. My
I
shelf
mean,
life is
I
coming
mean
up.
this term.
Excuse me?
I mean this term.
26 is when I'm up for reelection.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I would just push back a little bit on that and say the time to have the conversation would be now. Like you said, you're a planner, you want
Well,
to think ahead
I-
on these sort
I
of
would say
things.
this,
The more we
we
can
have
plan,
those
the better.
conversations,
Sure.
but
Uh-huh.
the support is not there.
Okay. Okay.
To be awfully true, we
Yeah.
have conversations.
If you could help rally the support,
So that's where it comes
I'll
out.
be in
People
your
have to
camp
vote,
for
right?
that.
We have elections that are starting up, I think Monday.
Sure.
So
Sure.
y'all are the decision makers, not us. Y'all
All
put
right.
us in this position.
Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah, not a problem. Do we want to answer any questions online? Oh, yes, sir.
In 2 years, there's going to be a big event next door. I'd like to know what Grand Prairie is going to get involved in. That's particularly the World Cup. You know, there's going to be
Yes.
9 games over there. There's going to be millions of people
Millions.
that'll be coming here. And I haven't seen or heard anything of what Grand Prairie is doing to prepare for this. And not only safety wise, but also for entertaining these people. Are we going to be bringing in some more newer hotels that we have more than now? Are we able to do that? Are we going to be able to accommodate some of these people? Because a lot of people are not going to want to stay in Arlington. It's going to get overrun there. At the same time, Dallas wants to be able to control a lot of the stuff. This would be a prime opportunity, I would think, for Grand Prairie, not only to become better known. You were talking about the cricket thing come June 1st. Those of you who don't know that, they're going to have the top World Cup people here. This is a big thing. This is not the small thing that they had last year. This will be much bigger. So you're talking about that stadium there is going to be international. Those
Yep.
games will be televised worldwide.
Correct.
So Grand Prairie will become on the map at
Yeah.
that time.
Exciting.
Hopefully they don't keep saying Dallas, because
Ah,
I have seen the mayor and the people from Dallas referring to the World Cup. They're coming here as Dallas, but
yeah, they're
hope
trying to
that,
steal our thunder.
let's hope
Yeah.
Grand Prairie will keep on that. But I am really interested to hear more about what the city is planning on doing for the World Cup
Sure.
here.
So right now we have the Epic. We just opened up those 2 hotels, but outside of those 2 hotels, we have, I believe, 20. We have a little over 20 other hotels in and around Grand Prairie. So we're able to accommodate somewhat, but we do have future plans. Just right along 161, there's already plans to bring in at least 6 more hotels. They're going to come in the next 2 years? Doubt it. Maybe half of them. We're looking at hotels right now, but more upscale hotels. We fit the need now. When we did a study and we did a radius, we saw that what the average income within a certain mile radius. You know, you look at the restaurants that we have now. We're at that point of growth. But talking about the World Cup in 26, we're going to try to. We had Mayor Pro Temp and I, John Wheel, was it last year? We had a member of the World Cup. We had a meeting with them of what we can do to accommodate. There's going to be people here a month before and a month after. And how are we going to fit that need? And so we've had conversations. We just came back from Washington at National League of Cities, where we talked to some of the city council members there in Arlington. Hey, how can we collaborate? What can we do? So that's an ongoing conversation of that coming. You talk about our cricket. We have our T20 coming. I think the first game is Australia and Canada. That's awesome for Grand Prairie. That's a whole new unknown charted territory. But are we ready for that? To bring them in? No, it's unfortunate. They're going to have to go to Dallas or Fort Worth to stay. We're going to lose on money. You know, we make money on concessions and hotel. I can't blame this on Bill. He's the new guy on the block, even though he's been there, but he's our new city manager. But where does the accountability come in planning the vision? That's my thing. That's what I want to challenge our council. We've got to start looking. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? And what do we have to do? That's a lot of it. Honestly, how we're going to be able to accommodate that, that's going to be a challenge now and in 2 years. But we're going to give it everything we can, what we have. But we do have planning right now, several hotels along 161.
But like I said, none of that's going to be ready for the World Cup. What, just because of Grand Prairie's a nearness to where everything's going to happen, people are going to be spilling out. So are there other events or other things, activities that the city is planning
Oh, yeah.
to do in conjunction with this?
Yes.
To put out? It would certainly be lovely, or to hear some of these things, that because 2 years is going to come very quickly
Very.
here. And it would be I think of utter importance to the city citizens to know what may be happening here, because Grand Prairie is no longer, like you said, 20, 30 years ago. And I always go by the axiom, Grand Prairie, our name says it all.
Mhm.
Grand is what this area is, and it's becoming that way. And I'm proud to be here and live here, but at the same time, I think I don't want to say hype the World Cup, but I certainly don't like to see Dallas, steal all our thunder when we have the opportunity, because I don't enjoy seeing the mayor Johnson talking about the World Cup for cricket when it's all going to be held here.
Right. No, it's just like a lot of our concerts that we have at our Texas Trust. They all say, "Oh, I'm glad to be here in Dallas." No, you're in Grand Prairie. That's continuing. We do that every weekend. But to answer your question, when we had this meeting here a little over a year ago, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be coming through that the World Cup is going to leave here. We have discussions of how can we collaborate on the venue of entertainment. Even before, we've even starting to have conversations with our ISD of practice fields. Can we use Grand Prairie High since it's close to I-30 and close to Arlington? Do we have, and I think we've allocated funds from our infrastructure money about that, of creating that. But Chief, if you want to come up.
So Robert Fight, Fire Chief. So just so you'll know, the fire department is responsible for emergency management. We are already meeting with Arlington. We're on the committee now for the World Cup. We are part of the planning process. We will actually be in their emergency operations center in Arlington when the World Cup's going on. We'll have transportation, police, fire, EMS. We've already been meeting on the World Cup. So we are at the planning table. There will be watching parties here. The hotels will be full. The restaurants will be full. Transportation will be involved with traffic. So to specifically address your concern, we're already in the planning meetings. We're already talking about it, and we will be ready. And this will be, Grand Prairie will be proud to have the World Cup next door, because we're going to be part of it.
Well, I think that's great. Are there any thoughts or plans of billboards, or the rotating billboards to put Grand Prairie out there more about what's happening? My wife and I are volunteers up the information center, and we have people from out of state. We had a couple from Toronto just came by here the other day, and we were telling them about this. They didn't realize that the World Cup was going to be, within 10-minute drive of us. They weren't aware of that. They were excited about that. Whether they'll come back or not, I don't know. But I know people want to know about this. We have some friends in Argentina, and they're planning to come up here because they think this is a fabulous thing. With 9 games being held here at Jerry's place, it's inevitable that the amount of people will be coming in from all over the world.
Claudia, do you want to talk on that?
Hi,
Yes.
Claudia Garibay, Marketing and Communications. Our tourism office is also collaborating with the Arlington Chamber, and they'll be coming up with some great marketing ideas to where we can promote not just here, but outside of the city, so we can start getting people to notice where we're at. And
Very
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Because I think that's important, that that people know that we're here. I mean, it's not only Arlington, but we can certainly benefit from all that they have.
Oh, yes, sir. You're right. You're all right. Thank you. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
First one, I'm not speak English very good, but I'm gonna try to say something. Okay. What do I say? No. Okay. First one, I want to say thank you to Mike for he's doing very good job. I like it.
Thank you.
I wanna ask if somebody help me with people live on La Fiesta
Huh?
and Belline, and they park two big trailers between my driveway.
Okay.
And I can see when I try go to my to the store or somewhere, I can see the cars. And I don't know if somebody help.
Yeah, that would be under our code.
Yes, we can fix that. We'll get your address. We'll have it taken care of by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And the other one, in front of my house is a lot of holes on the street. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? We're doing great on time here. Anything?
Nothing online.
Nothing online? All right. Well, I think besides that, we're going to wrap this up. Again, I want to thank everyone that came in, everybody online on Facebook. Thank you. Thank you for everybody showing up, and especially thanks for staff. Sorry y'all didn't get any questions. Maybe next time, maybe in 6 months. So, but besides that, again, thank you for everyone, and everybody have a blessed evening.